earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
The first time I saw sonoluminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid.
And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters.
A tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid.
And you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye.
This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave, and this sound wave.
And God said.
And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
These on. Look, you crazy mother. Put these on. Hey, stay away from me. I'm telling you.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters. The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
Locked!
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake, and we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen in the bottom of the ocean. It was while filming for Blue Planet. It was in the Gulf of Mexico. And I noticed there's something out in the distance. Couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut. It was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down it. We literally bounced off.
Absolutely.
Do you get to fly to the edge?
Oh, yeah.
What's past there?
Don't know. We're not allowed to fly past that.
Let's go.
It's against the rules, Jonas.
Who are you?
The giver. When the elders need guidance, I provide wisdom using memories of the past. Our world was different. There was more.
More?
Much more. There is no way for me to prepare you for the truth.
should and I should not do. And the choir sang. Tried to be a good boy, but I ain't a boy no more. I've seen some things that a man just can't ignore. And this world's gonna see what I'm standing for. I've kept my peace, but I can't hold my tongue anymore. You can't buy my silence, you can't steal my voice.
You're talking about the Earth being flat. Thousands of scientists have looked into it. You think they're all wrong? That's so insane.
You haven't looked into it.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. It gets wider in the middle. And so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. So it's not actually a sphere. It's not actually a sphere.
All I'm saying is, when I look at all of it, when I look at the photographic evidence, or I look at the fact that we haven't been back since 1972, when I look at the fact that no humans except the Apollo astronauts have ever gone through the Van Allen radiation belt, the fact that no one's even done a flyby around the moon since then, it seems weird to me. When I look at the press conference and I see Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins nervous and weird and obviously like being deceptive after they came back.
You can see on the back of his shirt a couple of upticks on either side where you would expect wires to come in on either side of that harness. They're often portraying that this is live. Of course, these things are fully choreographed and edited in advance to make sure that there's nothing too obvious.
Looks CGI to me.
That gives away that this is a suspension in front of a blue screen hoax. The moon landing stopped in 1972 and we haven't been back. We haven't been beyond the Van Allen belts.
We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space, through the waves of radiation.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. It gets wider in the middle. And so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
Yeah. Chubby's a good way. It's like pear-shaped.
But what?
NASA's.
No, I could be wrong. It could be real.
There's too many things.
It could be real, but they've been faking them so much they look like all those other fake ones.
You've probably seen images like these from NASA. Grand and beautiful scenes of the cosmos and worlds beyond our own. I've always wondered who makes these and how do they do it? This is Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle, two multimedia artists at IPAC Caltech. Yes.
They look like I've seen so many fake ones that NASA admits that they're CGI composites. There's so many out there. So when you see this one, it's like, this is the same one. There's so much fraud when you look into it.
Astronomy
I don't
doesn't
trust
come from
shit. Look into it.
They take scientific discoveries that look something like this and turn them into something like this.
The faking of spacewalks in a swimming pool. In this vid, you catch a glimpse of someone wearing a scuba tank. In 2013, a gallon of water leaked into one of their spacesuits in a matter of seconds. NASA doesn't really have a proper explanation for how on earth this could have happened.
Commander Whitson making history with her record for any American. By the time she lands in September, her tally will be 666 days in space.
With the Earth supposedly 23.4 degrees on this axis. And that leaves you, of course, the occultic number, again, 66.6 degrees off.
To look into it.
Well, Earth is supposedly orbiting around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour.
That's so insane!
You haven't looked into it.
However, according to experts, these photographs are much less conclusive than one might think.
Einstein told us that light actually is attracted by gravity. In other words, the path of light is not straight in a strong gravitational field. So, astronauts looking at the Earth see a curved Earth. But what they don't realize is that it's not the Earth that's curved, it's the light taking a curved path from the Earth because of the strong gravitational field of the Earth that makes the Earth look curved.
How come when you check the internet it's valid, but when I'm on the internet it's not?
You're not talking about the internet, you're talking about a guy's YouTube video.
No, it's not guys, there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of people.
But they're just YouTube videos.
It's huge.
In October of 1929, Andrea again tried to focus the world's attention on the controversy by proving the notion the Earth spins to be absolute nonsense. It was reasoned that if a dirigible was to go aloft in England and hold itself perfectly static, then by the accepted theory the Earth should rotate underneath it and New York should come into view some 4 or 5 hours later. In fact, England was never lost from view.
And this is from NASA's official website. This one page, Spot the Station, of course referring to the so-called International Space Station, which of course does not exist. Take a look here. What do you see? As a form of mockery, they have the Flat Earth model on their website. A look here as well when it comes to the UN logo, which of course is basically the Flat Earth model.
Through time-lapse photography, the velocity of these clouds has been dramatically increased. While they were actually drifting over the mountains at approximately 27 miles per hour, they now have the appearance of moving at well over 100, 4 times their normal speed. If the clouds were stationary and the Earth was revolving underneath them, this is how it would appear if the Earth was spinning at 100 miles per hour. Yet we're told that the Earth is spinning at 10 times that speed.
The science behind them is not verified by peer-reviewed journals. The science of the Earth,
the government science that's bought and paid for.
What excuse do you have here? This is from ground level. As the guy with the camera pans back, you're gonna see that boat and that buoy disappear right here. There you go. Gone out of sight. Not around the so-called ball Earth. It's all due to perspective. That's simple.
And that's in my opinion, is what the globular Earth theorists have done. They've just eliminated what they didn't know. The more honest approach is the flat Earth approach, where you say, well, we don't know what's at the ends, but the ends are there.
Do you even know what you're supposed to believe when it comes to the heliocentric model? Is this what you believe? Because this is what they say is going on. The Earth tilted at 66.6 degrees from 90. The Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. The Earth orbiting at 66,600 miles an hour. The Sun moving even faster through the galaxy as it races towards the so-called galactic center. And the galaxy itself moving even faster than that in its ever-expanding expansion. And we don't feel it. We can't even get a negative test to prove any of this motion at all. And the famous Ares experiment showed, and Michelson-Morley and Sagnet and Gale, just to name a few. And that was over 100 years ago. Yeah, they soundly defeated the theories of gravity and relativity and special relativity. But unfortunately, the scientific community have been fooled by the leaders of academia as they buried the results. And their students and teachers alike, they never even knew these experiments took place. When scrutinized, all this movement just doesn't make sense. Remember that we always see the constellations in the same place, in the same order, in the same height in the sky every single night. There is absolutely no stellar parallax whatsoever showing that we just don't move. So do you feel it? Can you feel any of that incredible speed and motion? You know, gas floats up, butterflies float around. When we view things from a zetetic observation point, we find out that we're not moving. The real scientific tests also show that we're not moving. The Bible tells us that we're not moving. Common sense tells us that we're not moving. Astrophysicists and space agencies have tried to con the world into believing their very satanic heliocentric lie. And they have done rather well up until now. But the cat's out of the bag, and this lie cannot continue forever.
In 1969, NASA goes to the moon for the first time, where President Nixon talked to them on the phone with no problem.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives.
Only there is a problem. Nixon would not have been able to talk to them because the moon is supposedly 238,000 miles away. They lost the 1960s technology that took us to the moon.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
The ultimate destination is Mars. So if you gave me all the money in the federal budget today, I could not get a human to Mars.
I think that what you're doing is taking a shot in the dark. You have no way of knowing if any commercial entity will ever be able to put a man in orbit, no matter how much money you throw at them. What you're doing is you're taking NASA's Manned Space program and making it a faith-based initiative. I yield the rest of my time.
NASA also says that they lost the telemetry data for the moon missions.
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
Unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
Whilst in space, have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah. It's not a black void. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
Yeah, you can, and there's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
You see the gas. Magellan clouds of
you see
Galaxy.
The Magellanic Clouds.
Magellanic, see, I just wanted the Magellan
There's a large
clouds.
one and a small one, right?
Yeah.
And then you can see the zodiacal light.
Whoa. But the NASA actors from 1969 say that you can't see the stars in space.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the Sona Curlew what stars we could see. I don't remember seeing any.
Thank you very much again. Thank you for your time. Have a good flight and many more exciting experiments on the orbit. Thanks a lot.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Williams about to move out of the Quest airlock. Those particles that you see emanating from the airlock is said by the EVA officer Paul Baim in Mission Control to be particles of water from the crew's sublivators on their spacesuits.
times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, and it just happens that actors train in an underwater tank. NASA tells us that the Earth is photoshopped because it has to be.
It is photoshopped, but it has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space.
The technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit. So we have a really robust exploration program at NASA.
Previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
How do you recycle the oxygen? It's the main crucible test bed where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon,
Astronauts to the moon.
Steady, and that there were very few vibrations of any sort. Here's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft. You can see that the deploy went very smoothly. At the moment of deploy,
vibrations of any sort. Here's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft. You can see that the deploy went very smoothly.
constantly by these parasites. We are submerged in a sea of programming and brainwashing to believe in things that have not and cannot be proven. They want us to believe that Earth is the result of an accidental Big Bang that gave way to life of single-celled organisms that eventually turned into fish, then amphibians, then monkeys, and then us. We are told that we live on a rock that spins as it flies through outer space, and at any moment, we can be destroyed by an asteroid or invaded by aliens. They say that one day the sun will die out and all of this is over. Well, gee, if that doesn't make you feel special, then I don't know what will.
He lives in you. Simba. Father?
Simba, you have forgotten me.
No. How could I?
You have forgotten who you are, and so forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life.
How can I go back? I'm not who I used to be.
Remember who you are. You are my son. Remember who you are.
No, please, don't leave me. Father! Don't leave me.
I had all but given up, desperate for a sign from love, something good, something kind, bringing peace to every corner of my mind. Then I saw the garden. Hope had come to me to sweep away the ashes and wake me from my sleep. I realized you never left, and for this moment you planned that I would see your faithfulness in all of the green. I can see the ivy reaching through the wall, 'cause you will stop at nothing to heal my broken soul. I can see the ivy and every single